Find the most corrupt, the most easily manipulated, the ones who crave wealth and status more than progress. Offer them power in exchange for loyalty. If a leader rises who actually cares about Africa, get rid of them. Assassinate them if necessary. But if that's too messy, just destabilize their government and back a coup.
The danger is that we are strengthening individuals, not institutions. And what happens when you strengthen individuals is that they become absolutely powerful. In government, if you did government in secondary school, they told you that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So we have a rich country, but we are not prosperous. If we have a country that is prosperous, nobody will remember religion. Nobody will remember what religion you belong to. Nobody will think about what ethnic groups you come from. Nobody. There's a video I would like you to watch, and it's just a clip. I would like you to listen to it, and I will come back to it. Yeah, and I would always, if you find this useful, and this is not about whether this is not about content now. This is not about social media, and this is about the reality that our country faces. If you find this important and genuine enough to share, please share it so that this message gets to the right people and the awareness is increased. Can you watch and listen to that clip, and I will come back to what has to do a critical analysis of what is happening here, or what I think.
If you wanted to stop Africa from becoming a superpower, you wouldn't have to invent a new strategy. The blueprint has already been written, tested, and perfected over centuries. You'd start by making sure Africa never unites. The easiest way to do that is by keeping people divided along ethnic, tribal, and religious lines. If they ever start working together, remind them of past grievances. Stoke old wounds. Fund separatist movements. Keep border disputes unresolved. Make sure every time they take one step forward, they take 2 steps back because they're too busy fighting each other. You'd install leaders who serve foreign interests, not their people. Find the most corrupt, the most easily manipulated, the ones who crave wealth and status more than progress. Offer them power in exchange for loyalty. If a leader rises who actually cares about Africa, get rid of them. Assassinate them if necessary. But if that's too messy, just destabilize their government and back a coup. If they talk about nationalizing resources, make an example out of them. If they try to unite Africa, take them out before the idea spreads. You'd keep Africa economically weak by making sure it never industrializes. Let them export raw materials but never process them themselves. Control the mines, the oil fields, the rare earth minerals. Keep them selling cheap and buying expensive. If a country tries to break free and build its own industries, sabotage it. Place sanctions, destabilize its currency, fund local opposition, crash its economy. If that doesn't work, orchestrate a civil war. People can't build when they're too busy trying to survive. You'd make sure their education system produces workers, not innovators. Teach them history that glorifies their oppressors. Make them think their cultures are primitive. Their ancestors were savages. Their future depends on foreign approval. Train them to memorize, not to think critically. Keep their best and brightest looking overseas for opportunities. Make them dream of escaping Africa rather than fixing it. Offer scholarships that take their top minds to the West and never encourage them to return. Let the continent keep training doctors and engineers only for them to go enrich other nations. You'd control their narratives. Own their media. Control their stories. Dictate their image to the world. Make them believe they are corrupt, hopeless, eternally in crisis. Flood their screens with poverty porn and war zones. Show them charity ads that make them believe they are helpless without foreign aid. Downplay their successes. Twist their victories into isolated incidents. If an African country develops a groundbreaking innovation, credit a foreign investor. If an African leader implements a successful policy, frame it as an anomaly rather than proof of competence. You'd make sure they remain dependent. Drown them in debt. Offer loans with impossible conditions. Force them to privatize everything so foreign corporations own their water, their electricity, their land. When they struggle, give them just enough aid to keep them alive, but never enough to make them self-sufficient. Use charities to create a culture of reliance rather than resilience. Make them think foreign intervention is necessary, that they can't solve their own problems, that they always need help from the outside. You'd suppress their military strength. Keep their armies weak, their defense industries non-existent. Sell them weapons to fight each other, but never let them develop high-tech military technology. If a country tries to build a strong defense system, accuse them of being a threat to stability. Make sure they always need foreign peacekeepers, foreign military bases, foreign advisors controlling their security. Keep them vulnerable to invasion, coups, and foreign interference. The formula is simple. Divide, corrupt, exploit, miseducate, control. Keep them fighting each other. Keep them looking outside for solutions. Keep them poor, dependent, insecure. Make sure every attempt to break free is met with resistance so strong that the next generation thinks twice before trying again. This isn't a theory. It's history. The real question isn't how to stop Africa from becoming a superpower. It's how Africa can break the cycle, despite every effort to keep it down.
Now, I cannot justify, I cannot verify whether, I cannot confirm whether whatever was said in this video is true or not. I can't say whether it is the reality on ground, or whether there was any kind of a blueprint or any kind of meeting or whatever it is, a conspiracy against Africa. I am Africa, and we are all proud to be black, to be the people that we are, because that is what it pleased God to make us. But my point is this, okay? This is my critical analysis of this whole alleged blueprint for Africa's underdevelopment. Now, the idea that Africa's underdevelopment is partly sustained by systemic blueprint, this blueprint that we're talking about, is not entirely alien, because some of the facts, some of the things that was said in this video are our lived reality. It's something that we can evidence in our everyday political system, in not just in Nigeria, but also the whole of Africa. All right. So we see that external powers support corrupt and easily manipulated African leaders is not far-fetched. That is the truth. So while not always documented, these things are not always documented historically, ongoing geopolitical patterns suggest that there is an existence of a tactics. And this is how it usually plays out. This is how the tactics plays out. One is that there's a selective support of foreign governments or multinational corporations to. So yes, foreign governments and multinational corporations often back politicians who prioritize external interest, who are willing to do military cooperation now over their own people. Yeah, so they like to deal with politicians who would want to compromise local resources for international gain, for international reputational gain for themselves, and as against the people. On the other hand, they have a system to punish reformers, to punish politicians who pose as reformists or who are reformist in nature. They have a system to punish them, to push them away, to push those who are looking to push economic independence, those who are looking for resource control, politicians who have who don't want these Western dominated institutions. And so diplomatically, economically, they try to strangle them out. They orchestrate regime changes, like we'll see in the cases of Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, and Gaddafi. And they are trying to do the same thing in Burkina Faso right now. The allegations are rife that, look, these guys are trying to overthrow Ibrahim Traore. Okay, now the other thing we need to also take into consideration and accept is that, look, while these foreigners do these things, they have internal people who enable them. They have some of our own leaders and institutions and people who enable them to be able to achieve what they want to achieve. And this is the most critical point. They have NGOs, they have what do they call them now? Civil society groups. They have politicians, they have traditional institutions that ginger them and support them and give them what they need. They have domestic elites, basically, who are willing to betray our national interests, our collective interests, to drain the public wealth, to weaken institutions, to manipulate electoral results, to orchestrate violence, to do propaganda. They don't care. Now, we can, and we have what it takes, knowing these things, to break the cycle of what is happening through credible elections that will enthrone democracy. And I have and I say democracy for a very good reason. I understand that some of us believe that what is happening in Burkina Faso is the best way to go. The truth is that it is the easy way out. Find that that strong leader who can unilaterally make decisions that then that gets people exactly what they want. yeah, it does solve the problem immediately. It does help, especially if that leader has got integrity, has got decency, has got sane mind, and just like what Traore is displaying. However, the danger is that we are strengthening individuals, not institutions. That's it. The danger is that we are strengthening individuals, not institutions. And what happens when you strengthen individuals is that they become absolutely powerful. In government, if you did government in secondary school, they told you that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So there is a problem when an individual is inundated with power, and that is why for us to, and this has happened in several ways. It happened with Gaddafi. It happened with a lot of other African leaders. Currently, the president of Uganda, I can't remember, Museveni also, who has been there for too long. And it's also going to happen in Rwanda because they've got a powerful man there. It's probably going to happen in Rwanda because for several years he's done a lot in Rwanda. However, to not build institutions that credibly transmit power to some other persons, you keep adjusting constitutions to enable you to stay longer, to keep staying and all that. You don't believe that there's some other person who can do better than you. That is a big problem, and that is not the way Nigeria should go. As a matter of fact, Nigeria will be too big to now have one. Not about bigness. The big Nigeria is big, is a large institute, is a large country. But what I'm saying, the best solution for us, we have got the brains. Nigeria has got the brain. If you go throughout the universe, there is no part of the world you will not find Nigerians. And it's not just finding Nigerians who are trying to survive. There is no part of the world, there's no country, probably, you won't find a Nigerian who is doing something in critical sectors of the economies of these countries, whether it is in the US or UK or Russia or whatever. So yes, all over the world, Nigerians are there building those countries, helping them in critical areas, whether it's technology, health, whatever. You will see Nigerians, doing all that, which is why I strongly believe that if we harness ourselves, if we harmonize ourselves without looking at the government, without waiting for the government to strengthen this institution, because these governments are led by individuals who are selfish. So they are definitely not going to do anything to strengthen these institutions. And what we can do, we are not helpless. That's the thing. We're not helpless. And that is why my own suggestion in this case is that we cannot fold our arms, because nothing is going to change. Nothing changes itself. We cannot fold our arms and say we want to wait till God sends us a good person. We will have to fight, and fight, we will have to fight. And fight is a smart fight we need to fight. And that is by trying our best, using critical thinking to beat these politicians in their own games. Okay, we should do it in a democracy. The reason is because when you do it through a democracy, you are strengthening the institutions. You are strengthening institutional power, not individual power. And what happens when institutions are strong is that we will then transmit, we will then have a process where, of course, it's humans that will build it. So we will have to come out, get involved as young people, as sane people, as educated people, whether at home or abroad, through strong critical advocacy. Yeah. And the very first place for me, and I want us to begin to advocate, is credible elections. All right, credible elections, voter education and awareness. Nigerians must reject tribal, religious, and emotional voting. Now, citizens must begin to, not just vote, but engage with the institutions that, I'm going to talk about the judiciary specifically, and the electoral institutions, because they also play a critical role in this. And I'm talking to individuals who work in this institution. But all of us will have to engage, not just by voting or registering to vote, but also and what I call strategic call out. And I will expand on all of this as we go on. But basically, in the end, what the outcome or the action we want to see is that people are not, or Nigerians are not, we run a system that ensures that everybody is voting, is aware, so that you reject tribal, religious, emotional voting, and citizens are able to begin to then vote based on competence, character, and a candidate's vision for the country. A lot of people will tell you, or you might begin to think that way now, that look, this is not possible because there are a lot of illiterate. And anyway, look, hunger will educate you. Hardship is already educating people. In the north, where we thought that the people, northerners, don't like Igbos, people are already beginning to call for a specific person to be the president who is from Igbo extraction. So hunger and difficulty, extreme measures which these people are taking to, bad governance, will call out all of us, and everybody will, their senses will come to bear that look, this is not just about who is for me and who is not for me, and all that. Then the next thing will be to demand transparency in a lot more. That's a little bit related to what I said earlier, beyond just voting. But then we'll have to also, and that's also about advocacy from INEC, from the courts, from Nigerians who manage these institutions. Nigerians must begin to demand accountability. Technology, citizen monitoring, and media coverage are tools that will use to reduce manipulation. Nigerians should begin to think of technologies that we can use to, whistleblow, to spy. Yes, if we are serious about this, and so we need to harmonize ourselves, use things that that will enable us, so that when you come out, for instance, to protest, you have clear evidence of what you're using to protect. And again, of course, rejecting vote buying, which is what a lot of politicians now rely to buy votes, to write votes, and all that. So when you begin to say, okay, look, and like I said earlier, hunger and poverty will harmonize all of us. I know that there's what is called the institutional vote buying, which is buying the vote in bulk, which is what these people are doing. Very crazy things, But then we will come to that later. And also, basically what I'm trying to help us to get us to do is to look at all these problems and critically find ways that you can solve it. Every problem has got a solution, and we can't let the country stay like that because we believe that it has been state captured. Yes, it has been state captured. The state has been captured, but we need to rescue it. Then I also have a point on strengthening institutions. Like I said, whenever they talk about strengthening institutions, we always think that, yeah, it is the government that will strengthen institutions. No, these people are not going to strengthen it. Even the electoral reforms, or whatever they are carrying out now, reform of the electoral process that they are doing now, they will always do it to favor them. Or when they even eventually do it to work properly, somebody will sit on it and then allow time to pass before they implement it, when he will have taken advantage of his own. All right. So in the end, what we need to do is to make sure that we are, strongly and visibly advocating, being present when they call for public hearing. You go there, we go there, make our point, and ensure that these points are taken into considerations. And when they are not taken into consideration, we insist that they are taken into consideration. We always there is this defeatism mentality that we have in Nigeria, which is the problem that the general public of Nigeria have. The biggest problem we have is not just bad governance, it's also the defeatism. It's also defeatism. I don't know how to pronounce it properly. I hope I get it well. But the idea that it will not work, the idea that this guy, for instance, election is coming. A lot of people already said, he will steal the votes. He will buy this person that has already bought everywhere. How will you win him? Well, that is a defeatism. In other words, when you say that, you then relax and you will do nothing, and then the person just strolls past, and that way we're not going to get anywhere. We're not going to get anywhere. We have to try. The fear of failure, the fear of death, is the major cause of failure. The fear of death is the fear of death, is the cause of death, is a major cause of death. The fear of failure is a major cause of failure. Okay, so we have to advocate. And the next point is quite interesting, which is about youth and civic engagement. Of course, I've been talking about civic engagement. So basically, we need to get rid of the "it won't work" mentality, the "it won't work" ideology. And I want, as I'm trying to round up, I just want to make the last point, which is that young people need to take responsibility for their own future. Nigerians under 35 years, are more than 60% of the population, make up 60% of the population, not 60%, but over 60% of the population. So young Nigerians need to stand up, need to take their place by force. Understand what I mean by force? Not just as voters, but as leaders, as activists, as reformers. Young people join political parties. Young people join political institutions. Be a part of the whole process. So in the nutshell, whether this blueprint exists or not, I have always narrowed down to Nigeria. The reality is that Nigeria's underdevelopment or Africa's underdevelopment is both externally enabled and internally sustained. We are the ones doing ourselves, both by cooperation, which our leaders are doing, or the people who call themselves our leaders are doing, and by docility, by our silence, we are also cooperating. So the solution is to stand up and do something. The way forward is a credible election. There is no way to get out of this sustainably without a credible election, which is why we must begin to advocate for credible elections. Ethical leadership. That is how that's the process that credible elections bring about people who are ethical leaders, who provide ethical leadership. Leadership based on ethics, based on conviction, based on values. Okay, for Nigeria to change, everyone from the average voter to the highest judge, we must act with conscience, we must act with integrity and a commitment to the nation's true progress. The truth is that if this country progresses, all of us, including our children and our children's children, will be happy and enjoy it. So that is a motivation enough for all of us to do something about it. If you love this content, not for the sake of content, share it so that people will get this information. I'm going to be doing multiple parts of this video where we're going to talk about, discuss advocacy for electoral integrity. Look, this is very critical. For me, I believe that it is the center of our problem. If we get sorted on electoral integrity, and particularly with the roles that judges play, not particularly, but including the roles that the judiciary plays in our election, if we sort out electoral integrity and sort out our judiciary, then we are good to go in this country. The truth is that if you ask your family members, people who live in a country where democracy works, where institutions are stronger than individuals, where people fear the law, where people are under the law, not trying to make themselves the law, then you will understand that when we fix this country, as in really fix this country, not political fix, not what people tell you, not what politicians tell you. Politicians are not going to do it. That is why I said not political fixing, because when politicians tell you that they want to fix the country, what they mean is that they want to get to power, they want to be at the head. I mean that is the reality. So, but what I mean is that when we fix this country, when we fix our institutions and gradually reduce corruption, the truth is that if we get electoral integrity, you will gradually fix every aspect of our country, whether it is economy, security, poverty, tribalism. Everything will be sorted. The truth is that if every part of this country are as prosperous, if we live in a prosperous country, we have a rich country, but we are not prosperous. If we have a country that is prosperous, nobody will remember religion. Nobody will remember what religion you belong to. Nobody will think about what ethnic groups you come from. Nobody will think about all those mundane ideologies that is keeping us down now. So that is why it is important that we fight. And maybe it was by design that we are having a series of bad leadership that is getting worse every day, so that we get to that extreme where we have no other choice than to fix this country. Right now, I think it is getting to that point when we are all realizing that we have no other choice than to stand up and help fix this country. Don't forget to subscribe if you would love to help us do this, and click on the notification bell so that you are notified when I post the next part of this video. Share it with your loved ones if you believe that this is possible. We want to drive people to join this channel who are listening. Also, importantly and most importantly, Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think this is possible? If you think this is not possible, can you explain to us why this is not possible? And if you think this is possible, why should we not start doing it now? Just let the conversation get on in the comment section. And it can also help me and in making, this is my own part, probably my own part in helping our country. And it can help me modify what the things I'm going to be, putting out in this coming part of this series that we are doing about electoral integrity. For me, it is key, and that is what I'm going to be doing here. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one. If you have just finished it, how about you check here? You probably will find the next video, the next part of this video, if it's already been made.